How does an actor come up with a quote-unquote game plan for their career? Maybe they're fresh from Minnesota.
That's where I'm from.
Yeah.
I think you have to make a game plan. So how they come up with it, you know, the basics are first of all, I need to have enough funds where I can exist for a while. I need to get a day job. I need to get an agent. I need to get a manager. I need to get a commercial agent because that's easier to get. And if I get a big commercial, it pays a lot of money. So there's a short-term game plan, there's a long-term game plan. I think the short-term game plan is what I just described. People, you know, there's no shortage of people still coming here, still with the dream, you know, and it still is the center. It's still the center of the talent business. Los Angeles, New York as well. I mean, New York is similar in that way. And so I think the game plan is originally, the initial game plan is survival, get a job, get a place to live, get a car, and call everyone you know who knows anybody and see if I can get a toehold, find a class, find a teacher, find a coach, whatever. And that ends up sometimes just being the only game plan people have because they can't move off from that. There are those who, it's like, I'm going to do another golf analogy. Like there are people who hit balls on the driving range and there's people who play golf. So people who are class rats, who are always in class, who've been in class for 10 years, 12 years. And I have some of those, but the ones I have work. They also work. They're in class for a while. They're not in for a year or two. They come back for a year or two. That's different. But the people who never venture out of that bubble of class, they're hitting balls on the driving range, but they're not playing the game of golf because the game of golf requires, oh, there's a downhill lie. Oh, there's a water hazard there. Oh, I'm in the sand. What do I do? So it's different. So that the short-term plan is getting all those things together, the survival stuff. The long-term plan is, I'm a believer in you have to make the plan, set the goal, and the goalposts are often moving and fluid because things change. You know, you either get, some people get very lucky. There are people, I know a lot of them, bless them, got very lucky, something happens and they just fall into it. And some people, you know, we all know really talented actors, brilliantly talented actors who've never gotten any traction in anything. I know people like that. And it's hard. It's hard for them. It's hard to see. Some of them give up, some of them don't. And, you know, see people of very modest, mediocre talents who do very, very well. Whether they have a game plan or not, I always think you have to have it. You have to create it and have it and know that it's changeable because only thing that's constant in this endeavor is change. The amount of changes that I have seen starting in my early career to now are just mind-blowing. I mean, and at a certain point you go, I don't want any more change. I want it to stay the way it is, but it never does, of course. So you have to adapt. And you have to adapt to what's new, what's fresh, what people are interested in, what people are looking for, what about you will resonate in some way that you never thought of before. So having the plan is important, but also knowing that the plan is very fluid and changeable is also important because most plans don't work. Most plans have to be you have to be adaptable. And you know, when I first bought my house, I was working a lot and then all of a sudden, nothing. And I had this great guy I had these next door neighbors who were vaudevillians. They were a vaudeville dance team.
Oh, wow.
Phenomenal people, just amazing people. And he had been an actor and he knew I was an actor. I didn't know him very well. And he knew I was an actor, and he came up to me. I had been in the house 3 or 4 months, and all of a sudden, work had just dried up. And I had a house payment to make. And we were starting a family and all that stuff. And he said, and he was like almost like a Damon Runyon character. He was an old-timey New York guy, great guy. And he said, "How's it going, kid?" I said, not so good. Really? That's all right, it'll get better. It's like a streetcar. A new one always comes by. And he said, you need anything? I said, what do you mean? Do you need a touch? Do you need a little money? He hardly knew me.
Wow.
I said, no, thank you, but no. He said, well, if you ever need anything, you come to me, kid. He said, that's on the level, kid. It was like I'm talking to a Damon Runyon character. But I mean, his was a guy who had been in show business his entire life. He was in his 80s at that point, and he started as a kid. And had been on Broadway, had been on the Ed Sullivan Show, and so he knew that the long trajectory of the career, he knew stuff that I didn't know. I was freaking out because I just bought a house and I stopped working, But so that plan is it's as valuable as the paper it's written on, which means you got to have it, but you also have to understand how it moves and shakes, and you got to be adaptable and reinvent. That's what it is.
Are there any don'ts? You've mentioned a lot of wonderful do's on the game plan. What about don'ts? Stay away from this. Be cautious of this.
Don't fall under the influence of a guru, because there's a lot of that, which I think is really hurtful and harmful.
How do you know they're a guru, though? Sorry.
Well, when you get into it's a good question, because many of the people who are gurus are also quite brilliant, and they attract followers. And they're a guru when, let's just say in an acting class, but it happens in other areas too. When it becomes about pleasing the teacher and not about your own personal growth, you're in the presence of a guru. You're in the presence of a narcissist. This is very common, very common. I have seen it. I've seen people who've been involved with some acting studios that won't be named, where I've had to, I won't use the word deprogram, but like I had one guy who was a fantastic actor. And he was with this place for 2 years, and he said, I don't even know how to act anymore. I'm destroyed. I've lost whatever it is I had. Well, then you're in trouble, right? That's not good. So you have to understand, you have to have a judgment as like who's throwing the BS and who isn't, and what's the truth? What's the emes, the truth, which is Yiddish for truth. You've got to be after the emes, the truth. And so some people have bad judgment, and they don't know. And they learn the hard way, or they get stung, or they get abused, or whatever. There's a lot of that. So, I mean, it's really important to surround yourself with people who understand what you're about. So don't fall under that influence. The other don'ts are like, don't sell yourself short. Don't decide that you're only worth being at this level. When I was talking to this young woman yesterday who I'm trying to help out with maybe finding a new manager, she's brilliant. I mean, I don't throw that word around. She's brilliant. And I said, you deserve that. You deserve somebody really good because you are outstanding. You're an uncommon talent. And I think she needed to hear that. I said, do you know that about yourself? She was quiet. I said, know that about yourself. That's important because you are that way and you deserve somebody great. And so you don't deserve, there's a lot of bottom feeders who are agents, managers, whatever. And so know your worth, don't fall under the bad influence, and stay interested. Stay interested. I often ask people, are you watching something that interests you? Who are your heroes? Who do you like? Who's great? Why don't you like that person? That's interesting. To sort of develop a taste level that's high. The great Ira Glass quote, do you know that quote? It's about writers, but it's really about anybody who's doing anything creative. I'm going to paraphrase it, but it's a brilliant quote. He basically says that when you start doing something creative, you have a taste level that's really high. That's what got you into it, because you understand what's good. But for the longest time, your work isn't as good as what your taste level is. And the only way to get there is to just do lots and lots of work, to just continue to do work, to fail upward a little bit, let's say, so that at some point your level of talent and skill matches your level of taste. So I can see things like I'm watching the morning show right now, which I think is brilliant. And I go, wow, I mean, I would love to be in that. And I could play in that playground. When I did Big Little Lies, it was like I hadn't worked for a little while because I've been doing other things. I've been teaching, writing books, doing all that stuff. And I went, oh, I've been invited back to the grown-ups table. That's what it feels like. And I was nervous. But I was nervous for no reason. It was great. It went great, and it was fun, and it was, I felt validated in that way. And so I think it's understanding what you're worth, and a lot of that is just who, a lot of that is who you are, everybody's got some bad stuff in their background that holds them back, an abusive parent or whatever. We've all got something. But it's understanding your story. What's your story? Who are you? That worldview exercise. Who are you? What's your story? And do you deserve that? If you don't think you deserve it, you're in the wrong line of work. You've got to believe that. And sometimes you get lucky, and you get to play with people at a very, very high level. And whenever I've been lucky enough to do that, it's been just like, it should feel logical that you're there. Oh, this makes sense that I'm here with Robert Duvall or Paul Mazursky or somebody else. That just makes sense because that's what I've been working toward. That's how I see myself. So it's a lot of self-actualization and really and positive thinking. And my mother used to say, I'm going to give you a Dutch uncle talk. And she would tell me, she would build me up. She was a little nuts, my mother, but she would build me up in ways that were really helpful. And it's important to build yourself up and have people around you, not to shine you on, not to tell you how great you are when you're not, but to really share the dream that you have with you as much as they can. It's only going to be your dream, but to share it with people, like-minded people, whether it's a partner or a community.